Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Carlton People. Today, I've got Chloe with me. Chloe, hello and welcome.
Hello, it's so good to be here.
It's good to have you here, especially now on the eve of a season when all hope is still there, all excitement is still there. And I think for Carlton, especially coming off last year, hopefully it continues to go the way it finished last year.
That would be amazing. I mean, even despite, the ups and downs of 2023, I feel like we carried that momentum from 2022 into 2023, and then it'll be exciting to see what can build this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to talk a bit about 24, maybe a little later. Why don't we start with you and your story? So how did you actually become a supporter?
Yeah, so have always been a Carlton supporter. Similar to a lot of people, I suppose. My dad is a huge Carlton supporter, so yeah, that's how I got into it all. There is a bit of a controversial photo that exists. I do have a twin sister. Her name's Holly, and I'm pretty sure it was her that was in Saints colours at a Kinder Footy day. But neither of us have ever gone for the Saints. Sorry, Mum, but yeah, that's a bit controversial. But I'm pretty sure that was her in the photo. I really hope it wasn't me, because that would be kind of bad for my, my sense of self, really.
We don't need that getting leaked out anywhere, especially if we can't confirm whether it's you or not.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So no finger pointing, but just in case it ever surfaces, I'm pretty sure it's not me.
All right. Well, the evidence is now here on record. So, okay. So the family ties. What about your earliest memories? How does that journey begin? What actually sticks in your brain from the start?
Well, I remember not being allowed to always stay up as late as the footy was on. So most of the time I'd have to watch the replay. The next day I'd get to watch maybe a half and then it was bedtime. So off I would go. And then a lot of the time I'd get up in the morning and depending on where the TV remote was sitting, if it was nice on the table, cool, we probably won. If the remote was, close to looks like it's been thrown somewhere, then, I wouldn't necessarily have high hopes. No, but there was even times when, yeah, I'd be watching the replay and Mum would have already seen the game and it would get so close. I can't remember what game it was, but oh, I remember Fev was playing and Mum knew the score and she was like hiding in another room and I just couldn't bear to watch it, which is pretty much the same as I still am today. And I just kept going to her, like, you have to tell me what happens, because it was so close. But yeah, they're probably my earliest memories, as well as I've always gone to round one, particularly the Richmond matchup. So just the siren sounding at the start of those games is just a feeling on its own.
It is. It really is. It's. I feel like I say this too much, but the whole sport, it's just a heartbeat of the city. Like it just
Yeah.
breathes fire and electricity and spice into the city.
It does, it sure does. I would always catch the train up to those games as well. So, being on the train with everyone and kind of feeling that buzz and then you walk across. Yeah, there's nothing like it, is there?
No, no, absolutely not. I mean, when we're talking in the context of this chat, a day after a practice match, and even just from yesterday's happenings, which really was just a glorified training session,
Yeah.
just to see the the conversation that it sparked. And I think
Yeah.
the other part about footy, which I find really unique to the other sports in the world, is how much of a balance there is between on season and off season. Like when it's off season, it's like there's nothing going on, and you
Yeah.
almost get that break to miss it.
Yeah, that's so true, and I guess having that break, it just makes times like now so much more exciting, and then I guess from a Carlton perspective, coming into this year with some sort of expectation. Like, I was on a call with Dad actually the other day, and he was saying to me, like, "I'm reading all this stuff and all these people are saying, we could be top 4, like, should I be buying into this? Should we be having expectations this year?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, in my opinion, we should be. Now's the time. We've made the finals now. We've got that experience. Love the list and everything about where the club's going." And I said to him, "I think you've got to put aside all the last 10, 20 years and everything that's happened and just really focus on the future."
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good point. It's something that's come up recently. we're a club that has a really big generational gap. We have a generation that knows the club as this mighty being,
Yeah.
multiple premierships. Many of the supporters have seen, 3 or more, or 5, 6, 7, 8 premierships in their lifetime. And then you get this 25, 26-year gap, and then you get us. And then you get,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know. So how do you view the club in that way, in what it was and what it is and what it's gonna be?
Well, obviously, I'm hoping that it will get back to what it once was. I know that obviously the times have changed, so that kind of inner hub of Carlton itself, it can exist in some capacity, but obviously it's so much broader than that now. But I hope that, you know, it returns to all its glory. It's not that I think that it was missing that for a while because, you know, they've constantly been trying to get back on track in different ways over the years, but I really see it now. I see the vision, and I'm hoping that, starting from this year, all things going well, that hopefully we get to experience that same sort of feeling.
Hmm. What would you describe as your core Carlton memories? Whether it's childhood, I mean, obviously the finals last year, they're probably going to be up there, but are there any core memories early in the piece that help build the foundation of Chloe as the Carlton supporter?
Well, I just think that whole journey, even though it was difficult, of just sticking by the club during, I mean, that kind of bad period was just pretty much my whole life. And I never once thought, I'm going to go support someone else. And then sticking by the club through all of that, watching all those games where, I was watching Cal's episode and he was saying he would never leave um, the game early. Like I would never do that.
Yeah.
So sticking by them through all that time and then to experience the finals last year, like I just think it makes it 10 times better. But in terms of specific memories, I would say there was this one game. I couldn't tell you the year or the time or literally anything. I just remember we were playing the Bulldogs and we had those. I was younger, probably like I don't know, between 7 and 9, so it's not really the most pinpoint memory, but, yeah, I had those clappers, the little
Oh,
hand
yes.
that you go like this, and, we came back from and that was like we didn't come back at that point, Carlton wasn't a comeback team, and we came back against the Dogs and, we were clapping so hard that the clappers broke because we were just getting goals, like, it was above 30 points. I would have to go back and find the exact game, but yeah, they broke off because we were so excited, so
I love that. That is a you'd be surprised how many memories are the same or
yeah.
similar. I've not heard that one.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, so that was a bit crazy, but then, yeah, just the finals last year, I mean, stands out. But even in terms it's not like all memories are positive. I remember that, round 23, I suppose it was, without the extra round against maybe there was an extra round, 2022 against Collingwood, that last game, to get us into the finals. Don't wanna bring you back to that, but, that's kind of a memory in its own. I was at a pub in Port Douglas actually, because 'cause I'd been traveling, around Australia, and it was this pub was full of Carlton and Collingwood supporters, and obviously the roller coaster of that game and the fact that it was Carlton and Collingwood and our finals were on the line, it was just crazy the environment there, and then obviously the end result. Like I actually think I went into shock for a few days after that. It was crazy, but obviously now you can look forward to 2023 and compare them and think, well, everything kind of happens for a reason. But at the time, it was just a crazy feeling.
Yeah, nah, I I would agree. I think that is a core memory. I think that's a core memory for this group because it just proved how hard it is to rise into the 8. Like, forget about the
Yeah,
premiership for a minute. We'll get there, shortly, but just to get to the 8, and then let's be honest, the team was relatively good enough to play finals that year, but for a couple of quarters in certain matches, particularly in that last month, and then to pay the price for not getting the
yeah.
job done earlier in the year in that way, ah, I'll never forget it.
Well, 'cause earlier in the year, it was more like not that it was ever a sure thing, because it's never a sure thing unless you're pretty much at the top, but, there was all those stats coming out about when people are 8 and 2, like, they're pretty much guaranteed a final spot and all this stuff, so you kinda get in your head thinking, "Oh, yeah, if we when we started losing a couple games, it's like, oh, we can afford to drop a couple, and then a couple becomes like, a few, and so on, and then you start to get in that situation. And
Mm,
it was crazy to kind of watch that unravel and then watch it build back up again. Like, it was the flip side by the end of last year. We were just doing the opposite. So I don't know. It's just
mm.
crazy. I mean, it's crazy being a footy fan. I think it's crazier being a Carlton fan.
It sure is.
Yeah.
You're also a journalist. You're in the sports
Yes.
media space. You're on your rise. You're on the grind. Tell
On the
us a
grind.
bit about what you do and what you want to do, and what does the journey look like for you that you're on?
Yeah, so I just finished uni actually last year, towards the end of the year. So I just graduated recently. Studied Bachelor of Communications, majoring in journalism. And a lot of people along the way will ask, like, "Oh, what made you get into this?" Especially journalism, just the kind of industry it is and where its future is heading. Like, you get that question fairly often. And to be honest, it was footy that made me get into that, just because, the allure of sports journalism has always interested me. So yeah, at the moment I'm just with the Inner Sanctum, covering as many sorts of games and analysis from pre-season, and then hopefully transfer that into the season this year. Obviously, yeah, I've been down at Carlton a fair bit, which has been great to sort of provide that insight on how they're going too.
Yeah. Well, from what you've seen, both as a fan and a journalist, what are some of the themes that you think will pop up in 2024?
From a Carlton perspective,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I have a surprisingly great mindset heading into this year. As I was saying earlier in the chat, you feel a bit weird about, everything's kind of settled at the club. Um, the group's been together for a while now, and they keep stressing the importance of that stability, which, yeah, especially with the announcement of Sayers extending last night, it's all kind of falling into place. And yeah, I feel positive about it. Looking at the training track, most people are looking fit. Even the couple who are having a few issues pop up at the moment, I mean, knock on wood, but it doesn't seem to be, you know, as bad as we've seen it in the past. Fingers crossed again on that front. But all the people who were out in the park yesterday and in the sessions prior to that, they're all looking fit and ready to go. So yeah, and all of the new draftees as well. Um, Everyone's looking great. So I especially think that depth is going to be so important going into this year as well, which is something that, in my opinion, we haven't really had as much of in the past. So I'm excited to see how that pans out as well too.
Yeah, it's true. And I think the reality is you can't prove that you have depth without the depth being tested.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
But I mean,
it's
it got tested last year, right? Obviously,
Mhm.
some of those cogs have changed around now, with the exit of Fisher and Dow, but that just provides more opportunities for others. I mean, I even forget, it's so easy to move on into a new year, but you know, Plowman's not there anymore, O'Brien's not there anymore, Honey, like all these faces that we'd come to see as our depth players as well. So I guess it will be a new and a different sort of challenge this year.
Mm. No, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna fire some questions about the year at you now. I'm gonna
Okay.
put you right on the spot
All
and
right.
see what's on your mind. So first name that comes to mind when you think of, "Oh, this might change now." Best and fairest.
Yeah, so it was Walsh.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it will still be Walsh,
Uh-huh.
but, it's such a hard one because even going to the Best and Fairest last year, it could have been so many people, right? And so many
Mhm.
people, like Newey at the start of the year, you probably wouldn't have picked him, but he was right up there. And I don't know because I've just had Walsh in my mind, but Cripps is always up there, and he was looking great yesterday. So yeah, I mean, but then Hollands was good as well, right? So no, I can't just say everybody, but I'm gonna stick with Walsh,
Okay.
just for, a good omen.
I think we're all on the same page with Walsh, and that's probably why a bit of the frustration came out because we've all pictured this scenario where he does every session in the preseason, and therefore, if that happens, he plays every game in the year, and if that happens, he's right up there for Brownlow chance and best and fairest. Let's take Walsh out for just for
Oh,
argument's sake. Who will come second? who's the next one that you would say if Walsh didn't win it, this guy's probably going to have one of those years?
See, I know everybody oh, it's just so hard because for me, he was just such a front runner, and
Yeah.
everybody is training so well, so it makes it harder to pick someone who will be the outright best and fairest. But if we're just basing it on like, are we just basing it on yesterday and the
No,
other
no,
training?
just your instinct, your gut feel.
Oh, I think but yeah, I still think I would say Cripps would be up there, which,
All right.
I'd there'll be a lot of people on the rise, but I don't have my finger pointed on someone yet, apart from Walsh, who will just take, like, an astronomical next step. Like, he's really in that zone where he's ready to just become the best player in the competition, which is why
Yeah.
a as I say I had him as best and fairest, I also had him as Brownlow, so it's hard to kind of remove him from the whole discussion, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't
All
know.
right. Cripps and Walsh. Hey, they're two pretty solid names. I think you're going to be well represented with those two.
Hopefully.
What about the most improved?
Oh, it would have to be Ollie Hollins.
Hmm.
Obviously, he improved last year, but that's kind of his baseline last year, I would
Yeah.
say, and I think that um, he can just climb and climb, so I think that'll start this year for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yesterday I was
Oh,
saying this.
Lock as well, sorry to cut you off, but,
No, that's okay.
I think
Yeah,
we'll have a great year, but yeah, I think it'll be Hollins overall.
I like it. Well, with Ollie, you never want to not see Sam Walsh playing. But I feel
Yeah,
like, talking about the practice match and even at training, when Walsh doesn't train, it just allows Ollie Hollins to get a bit more repetition on the ball. And
yeah, for sure.
all of a sudden, that practice match yesterday, I think we all came away from that thinking, huh, he can get in there and he can play on the inside if he needs to.
Yeah, but even I mean, probably you have as well, the amount of times I've watched that last quarter against Melbourne in the semi, and he was
Yep.
just so important more than just that one passage of play. Um, I can't remember the specifics of it all. It's all cloudy, it was just such a time, but,
Dreamlike state.
there was a Melbourne player on the wing, and they were definitely gonna be able to enter inside 50. Um, and he just chased them down and smothered it, just laid those tackles at the last minute. Like he will just not stop, similar to Walsh. So, yeah, I do think that's kind of a good comparison to draw that, if it does so happen to be that we don't see Walsh as often as we would like to this year, um, yeah, I think that he'll really step up in that regard as well.
Hmm. And is there I don't know if the word is narrative or storyline. Is there like a theme that you think you'll be following with real intent for the majority of this year? Like a headline, maybe?
I'm just so excited to see Harry's year, especially after yesterday. I know that, there was a few attempts that didn't quite make it. Very windy as well, so, I'm not making excuses for him, but if you saw some of those drop punts, like he's definitely on the right track and, I rate him so highly for his work up the ground as well. So I really would just love to see that whole narrative surrounding his form kind of shift and for him to really be the person. Like if we have him and Charlie working in tandem and he's playing, in form for the whole year, that is just such an asset to the side. So yeah, hopefully he bounces back. I mean, I still think
Mm,
that he was important when he was playing last year. If you look at when he got injured, he was just about to hit his straps again, like around that sort of comeback time, like Freo, Hawthorn, and then into the Port game. Talking about core memories, so I was at that Gold Coast game last year, and that was crazy. So
that
just to
was
sit there and
crazy.
watch us score goals, it was incredible.
Yeah, that was crazy. What else comes to mind when you think about the club and why? I ask this a lot. Why do you think it draws such an interest from the fans? Like, why are we so passionate? Like, clearly, we're a level above most clubs with our passion.
I'm not sure, maybe it is just I know most people with any team are like this, but because most people say for me example, I support Carlton because of my dad, like, there's so many people around my age that are similar, and maybe it's, like, almost genetic, like, I don't know, or it's just being in a house full of that passion that's kinda passed down from those glory days. Maybe it's some sort of instinct because I don't know. It's definitely Carlton people are definitely the most passionate, probably alongside Collingwood, as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that even when I think back at when we were winning wooden spoons and I would still go into the I mean, to be fair, I was a bit younger and I didn't know as much about the specifics of footy, but I would still have so much hope for the next year. And year on year, at that point in time, I'd be disappointed and I would just be like thinking, no, but Carlton's good. So I don't know whether it's delusion, but yeah, maybe it has to be some sort of genetic kind of element to it. What do you
Like
think?
we've altered our DNA. I haven't heard that one before, but you can definitely I think
Probably a
there's a
long
re no, I think there's a research paper somewhere that will attest to that you can alter your DNA based on the environment that you put yourself in. So maybe it's the generation prior to us, the ones that
Yeah,
created us. Maybe they unintentionally did something to our family's DNA. And this, I mean, I know for me personally, the idea of having children, Carl, there's no question. Like
no,
it's a non-negotiable. Otherwise, it's not happening.
no, it's not. It doesn't even make sense. Like I can't even fathom it. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, very good. Well, what about? Oh, yeah, I'll lob this one to you. Which year will we lift up the cup?
Oh. Oh, you just want one? Just 1 year?
Hey, if you've got a couple, yeah, I like that. I like that.
Well, I think that, I've done all the ladder predictors and everything. I'm not quite sure if I was talking to you about it the other day or not, but, yeah, I've got hopefully us and the Lions in the grand final this year
Hmm.
in my predictions. Um, and I would hope that that would be us lifting it up at the end of that match. I do really rate the Lions list this year, but yeah, I would hope so. But I think definitely next year. But I would hope that it would start this year, but definitely next year, and then I think we could win a couple just with the way that our list is shaping up at the moment. You know, it's important to have mature players, experienced players, which is something that we haven't always had, and just kind of that average age of around, that 25 to 28 sort of sweet spot is kind of where we're starting to hit, and I think that that'll make the difference that we need. But yeah, I'm expecting good things this year. Um, I would love to be lifting well, I'm not gonna be lifting up the cup, but I would love to see them lift up the cup.
Oh, we'll be lifting up the cup, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I think definitely next year,
Hmm.
and I don't know, maybe 99% this year. We'll see how it all goes, but,
It's quite wild, isn't it? We we
exciting.
took we took so long just to play finals, and then
Yeah.
we almost skipped the queue in the prelim and just made the granny on our first shot at finals. And now I don't know how the story. I mean, none of us know how the story plays out, but it's hard to get a real read on how to best predict it because it's so hard to get. It's so hard to be good year after
Yeah.
year for
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah, that's so true, and especially when you think about that time of year, like, even from a Carlton perspective last year, that time of year when finals is being played, and you've played a whole season, so, they're tired and all, those injury troubles from throughout the season, they can kinda stack up around the end of the year. I mean, that's kinda what happened to Melbourne, coming into that semi, they had a few people out, and, like, we had a few people out as well, and even when I was watching that Brisbane prelim, like, I was there and I was thinking, I was so proud of them, but at the same time, they looked tired towards the end, and I just knew that if we somehow had got across the line, especially when you then look at how hot it was against the Pies on grand final day, I don't know, because I the whole year thought that we would be well, yeah, I mean, apart from, but that whole year I thought we would be able to take it to the Pies in the grand final, but then when you look at the circumstances of the game day and of how we were playing in the prelim, I would have loved to make it like anyone would have, but yeah, I just wouldn't have wanted to see us get run over at the last minute under those conditions, under that opposition. That would have been a bit brutal. So, as I said, maybe it does all happen for a reason.
Yep. No, I'm sure it does. Well, no, it does. Everything
It
happens for a reason. We just don't know the reason until maybe a little later. Then we look back in
Yeah.
retrospect, and then we sort of join the dots.
Yeah, maybe the reason why Walsh is, resting is so that he can actually rest, and then he'll just have a stellar season. So
I've got a theory about it, and I think it happens not just in sport but in life. I think the greatest tests are bestowed upon those who are capable of it. So Charlie, massive test to
yeah,
get through what he went through. I think Walsh. Let's be honest, the back thing is going to be a thing for his career. Anytime he gets a little sore in the back, we're going to be a bit sensitive with it. And I just think there's something about having to overcome something every year and give him something to focus on that, you know, what makes him so great. Because part of being great is being able to overcome a great challenge. And I think
yeah, that's so true.
that's what the meaning of it all is. But
I guess
I
that's
don't
a
know.
good metaphor as well for the club in a wider sense, but, just overcoming everything from the past
Mhm.
20 years pretty much. But for Walsh specifically, like, so much is said about his own pressure that he puts on himself and his training standards. So, maybe a hurdle like that will just be what he needs to. I mean, he already is at such a high level, but if he wants to even go to a further level, maybe that's kind of what he needs you know, to get there. I don't know. As I said, we won't know the reason until later on, as you said, sorry, but, yeah.
Well, we'll do this again in 10 years and we'll have the answer. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Hopefully, we'll have the answer and, a couple more cups in 10 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Chloe, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this chat. It's been great to meet you finally. I feel like I've known who you are for a while. And then now that we've crossed paths at the club, it's cool to add another Carlton friend to the collection and another episode of Carlton People to the collection. So thanks so much for your time. And we'll see you around.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, likewise, it's so good to cross paths, after, I knew who you were for a while too, so, yeah, good to keep that connection going and love to be here.
Go Blues.
Go Blues for sure.